A Merry Christmas and a Happy Holidays to you and your family. This is the Maine Hockey Report, brought to you by the Hockey Podcast Network. I'm your host, Benjamin Kennedy. Thank you so much for taking the time to check this out today. How's the shopping going out there, everybody? How's it going? We are 2 days away now from Christmas, and I went out yesterday on the 22nd to what I thought was to finish up. I've got a little bit more to do. I'm like 95% of the way there. I've got to go out again tomorrow morning, and I am not looking forward to it, but it's kind of my own fault. Waited kind of to the last minute, but anyway, hope everybody's getting those preparations ready and can enjoy and just be able to relax on the big day here in a couple of days. Of course, we have got some ECHL news to talk about today. Unfortunately, to talk about CBA mess. Oh, baby, it's getting messy. It is getting bad out there, guys. Both sides, the ECHL and the PHPA, making statements over the last couple of days, definitely putting this into the media, trying to perhaps get some fan or public support from one side or the other, but we're going to do our very best to break down everything we've heard so far, and I'll give kind of my 2 cents on this as well, and then we will talk about the Maine Mariners, their weekend from last weekend up there in Trois-Rivières, and we'll talk a little bit of Boston Bruins here at the very end. Of course, they are on a 3-game losing streak. So we're going to start with the ECHL comment. I've got their comment right here. You can find all this stuff online on social media. It's all over the place right now. So I'm not going to read the full statements. I'm just going to kind of highlight some bits and pieces here, and we'll kind of go over it. But from the ECHL, they start by saying, as we continue to negotiate a new collective bargaining agreement, CBA with the PHPA, our goal continues to be to reach an agreement that increases player compensation, improves health and safety, and delivers on new initiatives that are responsive to our players to support them on and off the ice. And then they, of course, go into all the different changes or all the different things that they have offered. Now, this is, if you read this and you see all the different things, you say, oh, okay, all right, there, it looks like the ECHL's doing their part to try to, answer some of the questions here that the players have had, but we still don't fully know, or at least I don't know, what the players have actually asked for. So let's just keep that in context as we go through this. The league is offering an increase in salaries up to 16.4% for this year, retroactive, meaning players would get paid from prior games for this year. And then they say up to 27% increase in future years. I don't know what future years means. They talk about housing, medical, dental benefits that have already been there for the league and for the teams. Then they get into mandatory days off, travel, back-to-back games, holiday schedules, all that kind of stuff, which I have some comments on here in a little bit. And then going into equipment, talking about allowing players to kind of use different helmets or their own helmets, things like that. There's per diem increases in here, things of that nature. You can go break it all down, but basically the ECHL put out kind of all the details, or I'd say most of the details of what they have offered. I say doing that to try to show the public and show the fans that, hey, we're out here trying, we're putting something in front of the players, and they're just not agreeing to it. So that leads us, and I will break more of that down with my own comments here, but I do want to get to the players' statement and then the PHPA statement. Again, not going to read this verbatim, guys, just going to give a few highlights here, but they open this letter with, to our loyal fans, this is from the players now. We want to update you on the state of our negotiations with the ECHL. We have been bargaining since January 2025 and find ourselves unable to secure a new collective agreement due to the league's ongoing unfair labor practices. The league's unlawful conduct, these are strong words, dates back to late spring, early summer, when the league made unilateral changes related to mandatory subjects of bargaining and began engaging in regressive bargaining. This prompted the PHPA to file an unfair labor practice charge with the National Labor Relations Board. some strong language in here, guys. It has taken almost a year to persuade the league that we should be entitled to choose helmets that properly fit us. We still have clubs supplying members with used equipment. A little bit further down, the league sent at least 2 direct communications to players through team management regarding bargaining-related matters in an attempt to bully and intimidate players with tactics that violate U.S. labor law. A couple more pieces here. Of course, now this coming from the PHPA, where they basically make the announcement that they have served a labor strike notice effective December 26, 2025. And then from Executive Director Brian Ramsey, for several months, we have been engaged in bargaining with the league. Their unlawful and coercive conduct throughout this process has been incredibly disappointing. We are asking for basic standards around health, safety, working conditions that allow the players to remain healthy, compete at a high level, and build sustainable professional careers. Ouch. That is some heavy stuff. All I'd say part of just the negotiation tactic for one. I mean, this is in a labor dispute, you hear a lot of the same stuff that you're hearing here, I would say. But let's break this down a little bit here, guys. Part of my take on all this is I often will just simply side with the players just as a starting point, whether it be the NHL, the ECHL, NBA, Major League Baseball, whatever. I still remember having Red Sox tickets in like 94 when they had the strike. That was the year Montreal Expos were running away with the league. And we had tickets in August and weren't able to go. I remember being so upset about that. I was, probably 14 or 15 years old at the time. But I often do take the side of players when it comes to these disputes. It's, well, in terms of like, let's say NHL, it's the billionaires fighting with the millionaires, right? That's not so much the case here in the ECHL. First thing I would say is looking at the salary increase. It looks good, right? It looks fair, 16.4% increase. Maybe a little overdue, but I do think that there's been a major discrepancy in the amount that the players have been getting paid versus what they can make elsewhere. So it looks good on its surface. Once again, we don't know what the players have asked for. So it's hard to gauge, is this a fair or good number or not? 16.4 jumps off the page. Oh, that's a really nice increase. I'd like a 16% increase, in my pay too. But is it really fair based on what the standard is and, what the players are asking for? I don't have the answers to that. I will say that the ECHL for a number of years now has had a problem. They've had a European problem where too many players are looking overseas and getting offers, 4 or 5 times what they're making here in the ECHL and jumping ship. And quite honestly, I don't really blame the players. I don't blame them for that. We lost a few guys here in Maine last year to Europe, and I don't blame them. If you're honest with yourself and you're an ECHL player, and you say, listen, I've got 3 to 5, maybe 4 to 6 years to play, at a high level. I'm not an NHL guy. Just let's be honest with myself. I'm not going to be an NHL guy. This is my ceiling. I've got 5 years to make money. All right. You're offering me, 5 times the money to go play in Italy, go play in Czechia, go play in England. I'm going to go do that. I completely understand players wanting to do that. So what does the ECHL have to do? Well, they've got to pay more money to keep these guys around. They got to have a better package. So I do think it's an issue, and I think it's one that, once again, I don't blame players for wanting to jump ship. So I'll be really curious if we ever do hear what the players have actually asked for, to see that 16.4 up to the 27, which they say will happen in future years. What future means, I don't really know. Is that fair? Is it not? I'd be curious your take here. Leave those comments down below. I do look at what the ECHL kind of said in their press release about, the potential for players losing housing. Let's see. I'm going to read it right here. They say this work stoppage would result in at least some games being postponed for 2025-2026 season and have a significant impact on players who would stop getting paid and lose housing and medical benefits, something the ECHL leadership wants to avoid. Well, sure, I'm sure they want to avoid. I'm sure the players want to avoid that. If you're on the player side reading that, you take that as kind of a passive, or maybe not so passive threat that, oh, I'm going to lose my housing. I'm going to lose my medical benefits. Um, is that kind of a tactical threat by the league, or is it just mere reality of the situation? Hey, you're going to strike. You're not going to get all the benefits we've been giving you up to this point. Again, curious your thoughts on that. I kind of look at that as a little bit of a passive threat. I do. I do. I mean, you start to attack somebody's home and medical benefits. Um, yeah, that's kind of holding up by the short hairs a little bit and putting pressure on, perhaps, maybe, as I said, maybe passively or maybe not so passively, depending on how you take that. Um, yeah, I look at that more as a passive threat, in my opinion. Looking at, of course, the players talking about the filings with the National Labor Relations Board, and I'm not going to break down all the minuscule details of those filings, but if this is true, if the ECHL has been practicing kind of poor labor relations, or poor negotiation here, or unlawful negotiations, and if these labor filings are legit, and I'm not saying they are or not, I have no idea. I'm just reading what everybody else is reading here. Oh, it's a bad look, though, mate. It's a bad look if that's how the ECHL has been tackling this, over the past few months. Be really curious. That's going to be something to watch. Yeah, we'll see what we hear. I don't know what the time frame is on getting any answers on that, but not great. It's not great if the league or if the players feel like they have to file that. Oftentimes, where there's smoke, there's fire, right? So we will see, but not a good look at all. Um, Couple other comments I have here. Um, Looking at the travel, and the holiday bits. Now, this is something we know the ECHL is not the NHL, but I will say the ECHL has been a bit behind the NHL in terms of their standard of holiday breaks and travel. And listen, we know travel in the ECHL is always going to be different than the NHL. You're not flying on jets all the time. You're playing a lot of back-to-backs. You're traveling from Reading, Pennsylvania, up to Trois Rivières, back to Glens Falls, New York, back to Portland, Maine. I mean, it's a lot of, that's the minor league hockey realm. That's how you live, unfortunately. But there probably has been some room for improvement, and from everything you read from the players, it's been a little aggressive in terms of not getting days off, or these long travels and things like that. Again, is that just the nature of the league, or is there some things that need to happen? Obviously, the league has put some things in there, and you can read those details about minimizing travel and mileage and making sure there's at least one day off every 7 days, things like that. That has all been offered up by the league. So, good change there. One thing I'll say about this, and I've talked to people internally about this too, just the scheduling aspect. We know that the ECHL is a weekend league. We know they are trying to get families and kids to come to the arena. We know that's going to happen more prevalently, on the weekends. We get it. But it does mean a very condensed schedule in terms of, playing those Friday, Saturday, Sundays, and, going 4 or 5 days without a game during the work week. And I know that not every market could support, Monday night games or Wednesday night games. We know there might be a loss at the gate for that, and that's money, that's revenue. So I know that the ECHL is absolutely trying to maximize their revenue efforts by having a heavier weekend league. I get all that. I say that all as kind of a preface, but I look at it, you got a 72 game schedule. And yes, there are a few Tuesdays and Wednesday games sprinkled in there. I totally get it. There are a few. And I'm not saying that the league should go to, a heavy Monday, Wednesday, or anything like that. I look at Mondays and Wednesdays because those are very light NHL days on the calendar typically. The NHL is a very heavy Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday league. I'm not saying that it's all the same eyeballs, but, if you're putting a few more ECHL games on a Monday and Wednesday, maybe you do get a few more eyes on it, whether it be on Flow Hockey or in certain cities where I would say Portland could probably support a few more Mondays and Wednesdays. Do you lose a little bit at the gate? Maybe. Does it make it a little bit easier for the players? Probably, right? Again, I'm not saying you should have, of your, was it 36 home games, you should have 20 of them during the work week. No, no, no. I'm just saying maybe 2 to 3 more. Take 2, 3, 4 of those games are typically weekend games, and try out some Mondays and Wednesdays and see how that works. It breaks up the schedule a little bit. And listen, this middle of the winter in Portland, Maine, on a Monday night, what else are you going to do? Oh, the Mariners are in town. Let's go check it out. Listen, I know there's numbers behind it, and I'm sure that anybody working for a team will say, no, economically it just doesn't work. I get it, but I still look at it as, maybe try it out. Because again, very light on the schedule typically for the NHL on those particular days. One thing I do take major umbrage with the league here is this whole idea of used equipment. And I don't know if it's every team. I'm assuming it's not every team. But man, if that's a real thing, that the league, that the players are being kind of forced to use used equipment in pro hockey, yeah. Listen, I know equipment's expensive, but that's awful. I mean, that's kind of gross, actually. Like, there should be top end equipment for ECHL, AHL, NHL. We know it's going to be always better at the NHL. Totally get that. But man, if they're using used equipment that's maybe not as safe as it should be, and again, this may not be every team. I haven't heard any complaints, here in Maine with players here that play for the Mariners, but I don't know, man. That's a tough one. The helmet one in particular is really alarming with all the information we have around head injuries and concussions and all that players weren't allowed to wear helmets that really fit them and didn't have a choice of what helmet to wear. I'm sure there's nuance to it, but man, again, that's just a bad look on its surface, on its face. It's just a bad look. So, I'm just, I'm a little perturbed by that one. And I'm kind of with the players on that one. It took a year for the ECHL to agree, oh, okay, we'll give you your own helmets. Like, it just seems like a weird hill to die on if you're the ECHL. And weird that it took that long for that detail to be confirmed or to be resolved. Listen, there's some other comments out there that not all the players are on board with this, that there are some players that could potentially cross over and continue to play or not side with the PHPA. So there is some possibility there. Don't know who those players are, but it's sounding like everything you're reading on social media, that's not a unanimous, but certainly a majority is what I'm reading at the very least. And of course, you have a lot of these ECHL teams that have a lot of AHL and NHL contracted players. So obviously, this negotiation doesn't impact those AHL and NHL guys. They can go up and play in the American League. Really no impact to them, but they can come, play in the ECHL. And if a team has a bunch of AHL guys, maybe if there's a strike, they can get some, unsigned players and field the team easier. I don't know. That's another possibility, but man, we'll see what happens here, guys. This is not a great way to spend the Christmas break for the league and for the players. A lot of uncertainty, and you're talking about needing to resolve this negotiation by midnight on the 26th, and we're sitting here on the 23rd right now. Man, again, I hope those executives at the ECHL got their Christmas shopping done, because now they're busy trying to lock this in. I don't see it happening with Christmas being right there. Seems like there's some framework done here. You can definitely see from the ECHL letter that they have some things agreed to. They have made some offers. Maybe this is just a matter of the players putting a little more pressure on to try to get this thing done. But my bet right now is that this is not done by the 26th. And those games we have coming up here at the Cross, I do worry, about that. If there is any sort of labor stoppage, I hope it's very, very short. We know that, not every city in the ECHL is blessed like Portland, where, Portland has a good, solid fan base. They usually have a good crowd. Probably had a few sellouts this year. There's some teams around the league that draw, 1,000, 1,200, 1,500 a night. I mean, it's tough. Now you start taking games away. it really puts some teams in a real bind. And it's not good for the players, it's not good for the teams, not good for the ECHL. So, nobody benefits from that. And then you talk about all the ancillary, the hotels, the restaurants, all the workers in the arena, all that gets tied into this as just a real negative, and a real negative at what should be a very festive and fun and relaxing time of year here around the holidays. So a lot more to come. I have no doubt we'll have a lot more to talk about as the news breaks and as we hear more from the league and from the players. But just as a hockey fan, I just hope this gets done really quick. And hopefully we can be back at the Cross Insurance Arena really soon, hopefully on the 26th, for more hockey. And now a word from DraftKings, the jaw-dropping moments that make hockey hockey. Experience them all with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN. That's code THPN to turn $5 into $200 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, Kansas, pass-through of per wager tax may apply in Illinois. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction, void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer. Copyright NHL 2025. All rights reserved. So we're going to table that for now. That's kind of my 2 cents on it. All right, guys. So let's move on and talk about last weekend up at Trois-Rivières with the Maine Mariners and the 2 games up there. Of course, losing both of those games, going back to the 19th. Trois 3, Maine 1 in that one there. Trois with 36 shots to 28 for Maine, 12 and 12 for Trois, 9 and 10 for the Mariners. Power play, Maine was 1 for 1, their only goal coming there in the first period. DePaulo from Cronin and Thompson. Trois was 0 for 3 on the power play. But this was a kind of a nip and tuck game. 1-1 after 1 period, 1-1 after 2 periods. It's been pretty common for Maine to play games like this. But it was in that third period, Teasdale getting his second of the game at the 12-12 mark to make it 2-1. And then, just a battle down the stretch. Maine pulling the goaltender, trying to get one late, trying to tie this one up, but it's pulling with the empty netter at the 19:03 mark. Arvanitis, another tough luck loss for him. 33 saves on 35 shots. Played really well, as he has all year, and continues not to get the run support from the group. Just a tough loss there. Going back to the 20th now, the next night, Maine getting shut out in this one, 3-0. I don't think Maine was quite as competitive in this game here. Like I said, 3-0. Shots on goal, 30-27 in favor of Trois. That's 17, 8 and 5 for the Lions. That was 11, 8 and 8 for Maine. 17 shots in that first period for Trois. They were really firing on all cylinders. Trois was 2 for 4 on the power play. Maine 0 for 5. Really the difference in this one, that specialty teams on both sides, where Maine really had a hard time on their PK, which has been a real strength of the team this year. And that power play, while we kind of talked about it a week or so ago when they did score a couple of power plays after being 1 for 31. Now they're back to 0 and 5 in this game. Really hurt the club there. Tough one again. Another tough luck loss for Arvey. 27 saves on 30 shots. So that's 5 goals and 65 shots over the weekend there for Arvey. So he continues to struggle getting run support. Just some tough luck. Really carrying the water pail right now, where Cavlin up with Providence. So where does that leave Maine right now? They are currently in 5th place, so they have fallen down the standings, 11, 8 and 4. And when you do that math, it's really 11 and 12. I know you get the 4 loser points there, but you're 11-12. Now you're technically under 500 in terms of wins and losses. 26 points, 4-4-2 over the last 10, and 0 for your last 3. Your goal differential now down to a +7. You were up big time on that earlier in the season. So what's been the problem? What's been the problem lately? Is it just a matter of so many moving pieces that you've lost so many guys, whether it be to injury or call-ups? It certainly plays a part. There's no question. I mean, you've brought in a lot of guys, and I would say that Coach Kowalski's done a good job of implementing new players and bringing guys in. But let's be honest, some of these guys, if you were fully healthy, wouldn't be playing, and you've been leaning on them probably more than you would like to have to do at this point. All the games lost with Shovel Day off and DeVoe being out. Just tough, and there's other guys, and I name those two as kind of the two big guys. And Massacot's been missing time. I don't know. I'm just looking right now. I don't think we had a Massacot return last weekend, did we, guys? I should have remembered that, but he's been such a big part of the team this year from a defensive perspective, and again, full value for the guys that coach has brought in. I think they've done a yeoman's kind of job out there, but you can only lean on that for so long. You're just seeing some of the details, breaking down a little bit. The power play, you got to figure it out. You started to last week. You got a couple in there, but 0 for 5 in that last one. That's just a tough effort. And you have lost some guys, up to the American League. We knew this was going to happen. Talking about Luke Kavalin up in Providence right now. I don't believe he's gotten into a game yet, but he's been in that backup role at the DePaulo. The DPHO. Excuse me, the DPHO injury. But let's look at a couple other guys that have been called up and how they are doing right now. Jacob Perreault got into 9 games so far in Providence. 3, 2, and 5 for him. That's 3 goals, 2 assists for 5 points. Loki Johansson has gotten into 12 games. He's a +3. No points yet for him. Ty Gallagher has gotten into 11 games with Providence. 1 goal, 1 assist for 2 points, at -4. And then Sean Elliman, now 5 games with Milwaukee, but that makes 10 total games at the American League. Had played 5 for Providence earlier on. No goals, no points yet for him. I'll be curious. He's on that PTO there in Milwaukee. If he sticks, he'd be a welcome addition back here to the Maine Mariners. So we will see what we see. But of course, coming up next, a big asterisk, if we have hockey. We do have on the 26th, the Worcester Railers coming back to Portland for a 7:15 puck drop, followed on the 27th by Trois Riviere. That's back at the Cross Insurance Arena, 3 p.m. matinee. And then the two teams would head up to Trois for another matinee on the 28th, 3 p.m. start there up in Trois. That's a big if we have labor peace, if the CBA can get done, and we're not in a strike situation. All right, and finally, the Boston Bruins are going to close out their kind of schedule for the holiday here. They have the Montreal Canadiens in town in Boston. That game's going to drop at 7 p.m. from the TD Garden. A little bit of a struggle bus right now for the Bruins. For the last 3, 5, 4, and 1 over their past 10. Currently sitting in 4th place, 20-16-1. They finally got an overtime loss, that shootout with Vancouver, but 41 points, sitting just a couple points behind Montreal, who sits right in front of them. So a pretty important game here in the standings. These all matter so much with just how close and how congested the East is right now. This is important, an important way to close it out. I think it would make Bruins fans feel really good, even though you've lost, last 3. If you can win this one against your big rival, to close that would be really, really good. Couple real quick points, though, with the Bruins right now. Their defensive details are just awful. They have been so lax defensively, getting into some bad habits. Just defenders being kind of confused as to where to go on the ice. A little bit of what you saw last year, I think, has crept into this team. You want to see those details cleaned up. They've got to be better there. And the stick infractions and the penalties, it's been a multiple years problem with this group, and it continues to really haunt this team. Just too many bad sticks in the bad spot at the bad time, and some of it's just just undisciplined play. You got to clean it up. Yeah, they've had some bad calls and some unlucky, calls, some 50-50 calls that haven't gone their way. But I just think it's been too much of a problem for the group, and you got to clean that up. Now, I haven't really been a big fan of Sturmey's decisions with his goaltenders going back to the weekend. After Swayman had played a couple of games in a row, he runs Sway back out there for that Vancouver game, a very winnable Vancouver game, by the way, and really just said he gives us the best chance to win. Now you have the back-to-back, so both goaltenders are going to play. Corpo is going to play the next night, obviously, but I would say, based on what you saw, probably Corpo should have played Saturday night. Sway didn't look good on Saturday. Yes, he made a couple of good saves, the DeBrusque breakaway, and looked good in the shootout. Of course, if Pasta just can pop that shootout goal in, it hits the post, doesn't go in, we're maybe talking a different story. But 5-4 overtime loss. Sway got behind his net at one point, couldn't get back, lost the puck. I just, for Swayman, I don't want to see him behind the net. That's just part of his game. He's not very good at it. He makes too many bad decisions or indecisions with the puck back there, and it cost the Bruins there on Saturday night. So, after a couple of games, I think Corpo would have been a better fit there, and then you can run Sway out on a Sunday. But as it was, Sturmey makes that decision, doesn't go well, and then of course the Sunday night game, of course Corpo doesn't look very good at all. You got to put Sway back out there on a game, 6-2 loss to Ottawa. I watched part of that game in intermittent with the football game, and Boston just didn't look interested. They just really didn't look interested in playing the game. Didn't look interested in playing defense, and just a tough one. And Ottawa's just been a real tough matchup for the Bees. But we do have the game tonight. Hopefully the Bees can get one and close out for the holiday break on a high note. But yeah, that's what we have for you guys today. This will be, of course, my last podcast before Christmas. Coming up next, I am working on kind of a best of 2025 from the year. It's been a lot that we've talked through this season, this year, in this calendar year, but going to work on that. And I do have a couple of guests that I'm looking to line up here real soon. So be looking forward to all of that. Well, guys, that's what we have for you today. Thank you so much for checking this out. If you're already subscribing to my channel, thank you. If you're new to the channel, thank you. Please hit that like and subscribe button on your way out the door. I hope you all have a wonderful holiday, wonderful Christmas week. Enjoy your family, enjoy your friends. And until next time, everybody, be kind, show love, and God bless.